Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm looking at an article posted on the 14th of July last year about non-binary influencers. It's quite an interesting insight into why people feel the way they do and identify as non-binary. Despite the fact that I don't like the idea of non-binary and I don't support it in any way, shape or form, I'm going to try and look at this with an open mind. One thing I do not want with this channel is to have stupid clickbait titles like "so and so destroys woke liberal" or "conservative has a meltdown." I'm going to look through this and try and be serious. I'm now realising this is going to be a difficult task. Under the lifestyle heading, the article is "Non-binary influencers share what they wish people understood about their experience." This International Non-Binary People's Day, here's what these influencers want you to know, by Immy Brighty Potts. Not even going to make a joke there. Nope, I'm being properly serious. Straight away I can see 4 women, and one of them looks a little bit like Demi Lovato. Very fitting, as she did identify as non-binary. While we may think non-binary is a new term, in the latest census at least 30,000 people identified as non-binary in England and Wales alone, while globally numbers are much higher. Well, to be honest, the term new doesn't really have a time frame, and things that happened to me the other day actually happened last year. To mark International Day of Non-Binary People, July the 14th, we asked some non-binary influencers to share what they want people to know about the misconceptions and challenges that come with being non-binary and the freedom it brings. I'm not quite sure how you can get freedom from stereotyping gender in order to break out of it to create your own thing which carries its own stereotypes and flawed logic, but what would I know? I'm a bigot. Valeria Aval, 28, a blogger, an A6 athlete from Italy. I've always known I was non-binary ever since watching cartoons. I can't take this sentence seriously. The same mythical land where you can fall off a mountain and survive, get hit with a massive weight, and you thought you were non-binary because you didn't identify with cartoons. I struggled to identify with female characters. As we all know, women in cartoons are extremely accurate. I struggled to identify with Bugs Bunny when I grew up, so it turns out I'm not a bunny. I see the logic now. Then growing up, I started asking myself questions and realising that my gender identity didn't match my biological sex, but at the same time not even the opposite one. I'm not a woman, I'm not a man, but at the same time, it's like I'm both. My greatest wish is to be seen for the person I am, and that the state in which I live may one day recognise non-binary gender as such and allow me to rectify my documents properly. Even if our gender identity is not known, it is still valid and must be respected. You believe gender is a social construct, most of the population does not. And unless you're willing to admit that it operates like a religion, I am not prepared to accommodate that. That does not mean I'm a bigot or an arsehole or anything like that. It just means I don't believe that non-binary should be validated because you are literally having to say you're not something, which you didn't have to do if you weren't convinced that that's something you're saying you're not is a bad thing in the first place. Make sense? Jade Forbes, 28, an artist from Bury St Edmunds, looking like a colourful Optimus them. Not that she's ever going to see this, but I'm sorry, Jade. To be fair, if I had to use one of those, I'd hope people took the piss out of me too. It'd be a very sad life feeling sorry for myself. Anyway, non-binary isn't a look or aesthetic. Non-binary isn't thin, white and androgynous. Any person you've ever met could be non-binary, including those who present very feminine or masculine. You can be non-binary and present feminine or masculine, which is fine, but what is feminine and masculine? Jade, I think you'll find that non-binary most definitely is a look and an aesthetic, because we can usually spot someone who identifies as non-binary a fucking mile away. Non-binary isn't thin. Most non-binary people that I've seen online are fucking whoppers. Isn't white and androgynous. Most people who identify as non-binary are white because it is a Western invention. You do not see people identifying as non-binary en masse like we do in the Western world in places like Saudi Arabia. We do not see it in Africa, in the Middle East, any part of Asia, Southeast, east. If you don't believe me, go and fucking look. Any person you've ever met could be non-binary. Okay, so this is the other thing, right? If non-binary could be anyone, right, then why do we have non-binary in the first place? Because surely everyone could be non-binary, and technically, if you look at their argument, everybody is. If you think about it like this, no one fits the stereotype exactly of what it means to be a man or a woman. And the stereotype, as joked about in my last video, was things like men like beer and beating people up and all of that shit, and women like cats and Ryan Gosling and crying. But the truth is, men and women are so fucking vast in our personalities that even people that fit the stereotype will be different to other people who fit that stereotype. I don't know how many ways I can say this, but if you don't fit the stereotype, well done, because no one does. So if you're stereotyping gender in order to break out of it, by your logic, everyone must be non-binary. Every single person is themselves, and as many people as there are many ways to have a gender or not for a gender folk. Fuck me. If it was safe to explore gender, many more people would. We do, every day, by living life. I seriously wish I could get into the minds of how these people think, because I know I'm supposed to be taking this seriously and looking at this with an open mind. But these people are absolutely delusional. I'll give them credit, they've successfully created an entire movement which has duped government organisations and the media into promoting them in their fight for a solution for a problem which they created. When non-binary people are finally included in things, well, what are you fucking being excluded from? You're in the media, politics, what more do you fucking want? It feels like the only ones being chosen or paid fit very much into cisgender ideas of what non-binary looks like, which it can, but not for all of us look like that. You know what? I suffer from a chronic illness called Hashimoto's thyroiditis. My thyroid doesn't work and is slowly destroying itself to the point where I might need it removed in the future. I have to take a synthetic hormone daily called levothyroxine, and as someone who's so unstable that they can't work and they don't like life at all, I can assure you this gives me more of a fucking headache. But I soldier on because I was dealt a shitty hand in life and there's nothing I can do about it, so what's the point in spending most of my time complaining? I will say this though, it's hard for me to do basic things at times and I struggle to keep my head above water. Where the fuck is my news article about it? And of course I'm aware we can have news articles about multiple things at once. Of course I know that. But what confuses me is why do we spend so much time on highlighting people like this instead of highlighting people like myself who are actually genuinely struggling and need help in various ways and can't get it? I'm aware it's a bit silly to go on about things, but I'm enjoying my rant. Being non-binary is defining and expressing my own femininity. Oh my god, this again. Defining and expressing my own masculinity and defining and expressing whatever is in between. It sounds like this person is saying men and women can be anything. So why do you need to identify as non-binary? Being non-binary is not one way of living or being, and that's what is beautiful about it. It is about unlearning and peeling away the layers of patriarchy and heteronormativity. I guarantee you that if you asked her to explain that particular sentence, she would not be able to do it without sounding like she's batshit insane. But to me, that makes no grammatical or logical sense. What does heteronormity even mean? Google time. Heteronormativity is the idea that heterosexuality is the normal sexual orientation and that people should conform to traditional gender roles and relationships. Heterosexuality is the most common sexual orientation. Why does that make it the premise of something negative? I really wish I could live in a society where I could come out with crap like this. But unfortunately, I live in an Indian slum where this narcissistic behaviour is the least of my worries. I'm gonna have to make a separate video on this. There is far too much to focus on. Back to the non-binary stuff. Non-binary is raw. It can be freeing, vulnerable, confusing, fun, limitless, and exciting. I'm pretty sure that's just life. Essie Dennis, 28, a writer from London, says, "It's not about how I look or how you see me. It's about how I see myself. It's very internal for me," says Dennis. "I didn't suddenly become someone different once I found out what gender fluidity was. I just found a word for what I was feeling. And it's okay if people don't understand. We can't all understand each other fully, but just believe me when I tell you who I am." Just so I've got this correct, it's absolutely fine for me not to understand, but I have to believe you regardless. Fuck off, Dennis. 28 from London. For me, gender just isn't a big deal, and I always found it difficult to wrap my head around how particular everyone was about it. On some level, I always knew I didn't quite fit neatly in the gender boxes I was given. I mean, if cis-binary gender is the only way to live, then why does it need to be so strictly enforced? The only people who are enforcing it, Dennis, are people like you. A lot of queerness exists in the grey areas and in the way we reject the status quo. If someone feels like they don't fit the categories set out for them, then it's not their problem. The categories just weren't wide enough to begin with. Oh my god. Spending decades trying to change the idea of what men and women were and can be, and breaking the glass ceiling, and doing all of this just to have some privileged individuals destroy it all. Oh my god, it's actually happening. If this is what non-binary influencers can teach me about sex, life, relationships, and anything else, then put me on a rocket and blast me into the fucking sun. If you enjoyed watching this video, please click the like button and hit the subscribe button. It helps me out greatly. Please also click the notification bell so you can be alerted when I release new videos. I've been Jack, the right wing's premier left wing pundit. Something like that.